Hey, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Hello, hello. Jan, welcome. We are so happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome.
This is going to be fun.
Yep.
Hello, everybody in the chat. Looks like we've got Milk and Honey Heritage Farms, Rushing Wind Mountain. Hello. The Cow Emporium. Good to see you, Annette. Carrie Leonard. Hello. And Gwen, Broke Cowgirl Homestead. Good to see you. Let me turn my phone down. Whoops, a daisy. And Rebecca, Touched by Yarn. Hello.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hey, Suburban Hillbilly.
Hey, Tina.
Hey, Tina Ladybug.
Hi.
This is going to be fun. I am really excited to hear about. Okay, so before we get too much into the fermenting thing, one of the things I'm really excited about hearing. Hey, KK.
Hi, KK.
Is so you went on a fermenting venture. I remember you saying to me, I think it was like the beginning of the year, hey, Butler Family Farm.
You're crying, everybody.
It's 1 hour.
We're going to do a marathon one day, maybe.
Yeah,
if
one
Mountain
day.
Grandma gets to 1K, maybe we'll do a marathon of 2 hours.
Yeah, I'll schedule it. I could get it on my calendar to be able to do that.
So there you go, folks. You heard it here. 2 hours, Gear Griden, if she gets to 1K.
Yeah, it's only 1 hour because I have a meeting right after this. So just so you know, Jan, we'll be wrapping up like 5 minutes before so I can get in the right headspace for my next
meeting. I'm the timekeeper.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm ready.
But I know that you went on this venture. So, and this was something that you had as a goal and you wanted. Can you talk about hey, Huga? Can you talk a little bit about when you were thinking about fermenting, like how long you were thinking about it before you did it? And then when you finally decided I'm going to do this, because you're like a pro now. So, can you kind of start at the beginning with that? Because I love to hear about that piece of it, you know?
Well, what happened was many years ago, I had 2 surgeries, the same surgery, like a month apart, because it didn't take. And my stomach was like a rock. It was like all blown up like a rock. It hurt so bad.
Yeah.
And I went to a doctor, and they said, oh, your liver is really bad. It's like almost to cirrhosis, and it wasn't from drinking. I just want to put that it was a non-alcoholic fatty liver, and it was insane.
We actually, a lot of people don't know there are so many liver diseases. My grandson, I have a grandson from my other daughter that you all haven't, well, she's on there like in a short with her little pig, but her baby's father actually died from autoimmune hepatitis.
Yep.
So, and he was only like 25, bless his heart.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah. Anyways,
well,
go ahead.
The liver is a cleanser for our body, our gut. Everything happens in your liver. It's for your gut health. So I went on this journey to heal my liver. And the boss and I made a radical diet change. And it was years, now we're talking probably about 5-6 years later. And I watched Off Grid with Doug and Stacy, and Stacy is the fermenting guru. And I thought, I was still having issues. And I thought, well, I'm going to try that because she's talking about gut health. I am so sick of being sick.
Yeah.
So that's where my journey began. And the first thing I did was sauerkraut. And I just want to tell you, if you're fermenting, don't eat the whole jar.
I'm so glad you shared that. Jan, I cannot tell you. So I haven't fermented, but I love kimchi. and I buy kimchi, and I kept throwing kimchi away because I thought that it was going bad because of the effects, right? But I
Yes.
loaded up, like I ate it like a side dish.
Oh man,
And then
no.
I watched your video and you said that it might have been, maybe it's when you were teaching the class at the
Yes, it
offsite
will away.
homesteading thing. And
Yeah.
I saw you saying that. I was like, oh my goodness, that's what I've been doing. So
Yeah.
anyhow, I have a bag of kimchi in the fridge and I have not thrown it away. It's not bad. And
No, it lasts forever.
I only have 2 spoonfuls of it now. And I took your advice. I started out with 1 because I was
Mhm.
overdoing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Okay,
it'll
go
rip
ahead.
you apart.
Yeah. It's like eating
Yeah.
those Fiber One products.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand
Yeah.
it's loaded with probiotics
Yep.
and nutrients, and when your your gut isn't right, and you want to cleanse it, lemon water, and then your fermentation,
Mhm.
whatever vegetable you've done. Here's the cool thing about fermenting: the sky is the limit. I mean, you can basically ferment anything in the world, and it's so good.
Mhm.
But the thing I did was sauerkraut, and I
Mhm.
think I did like 2 quarts of it,
Uh-huh.
and it was so good and so different than store bought. Store bought a lot of times
Mhm.
is extremely salty. So
Mhm.
what I learned is make your brine, and
Mhm.
okay, so you're gonna cut your cabbage, right?
Mhm.
I cut it in slices, and then I
Mhm.
cut it again.
Mhm.
And then you just keep pounding it in your bowl with your salt. Well, I'll
Mhm.
put the salt in there, which is, I'm looking at my notes, 4 to 5 teaspoons
Mhm.
per
Hey,
pound.
Kim Patton.
And you just let it sit there, and that salt will bring out all the liquid,
Mhm.
and then you can start pounding it. I find that if I massage it with my hands, it gives
Uh-huh.
me more brine.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll have another one with just basically lukewarm water with
Uh-huh.
salt in it.
Mhm.
I set that aside. That's 1 tablespoon of salt to 4 cups of water. And I'll just mix that up, let it dissolve. And if I don't have enough brine from the cabbage and the salt, then
Mhm.
I have that additional I can add. And it's okay to add,
Mhm.
it, people are like, "Oh, I don't have it. It's not going to work." But yeah, you
Mhm.
do it. You add it,
Mhm.
and then it can take up to a half hour to get that brine mixed in. But you'll see it. It'll create it in the bowl, and
Bye, KK.
um, just okay, KK. Um, anyway, you just then you pack it into your jar, and you pour that original brine in there, and hopefully you have enough for however much you make. You can make pints, you can make quarts. Now, the
Mhm.
5 teaspoons I told you about was for a quart,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
well, per pound. And,
So 1 tablespoon salt to 4 cups of water
it's, yeah, that's for your brine. One
for
tablespoon of
brine.
salt, 4 cups of water, and you just put that in a lukewarm jar
Mhm.
and mix it up. And it only take like a pint, so you only need a pint, or so
Uh-huh.
you,
Mhm.
the most common mistake I made is
Uh-huh.
salt,
Mhm.
and
Oversalting,
yeah, it was
undersalting.
too salty.
Oh,
So
okay.
what I do is I taste it, and if it
Uh-huh.
tastes good to me, and
Mhm.
the salt content is good,
Hey,
I'm
Tina.
ready to go. And then
Mhm.
I
Yep.
put it on a plate, or well, I have an old cookie sheet,
Uh-huh.
and I'll put it on that, um, and cover it. Now, I have the weights and the nipples, and
Mhm.
you don't need that, y'all.
Hey,
You
Kelly
can
King.
just use part of the cabbage that
Mhm.
you pulled off and
Right.
Uh-huh.
tuck it in there. you do not want any of the
I'll be
vegetables
right back.
floating on top.
Right.
So make sure that all the vegetables, especially with cabbage and onions, and you can use an onion skin,
Yep.
just put it on top. And then you could use like a cheesecloth and put a rubber band around the top and it'll still ferment.
Yep.
If you have the weight, I like the weights because it keeps everything underneath.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
do too. I have the springs
yeah,
and I like them too, especially for sauerkraut.
yes, yes. And now it's common that you'll get, depending on the temperature of the room. Now, if your house is cooler, it's going to take a little longer to ferment. So be patient, test it in a couple weeks. And then in maybe, it's not really going to be ready yet, but
Right.
about 2 to 4 weeks, and then it's usually good to go. Now,
Yep.
if you don't have the weights and you didn't use the cheesecloth method, but you put a lid on it, you want to very slowly turn that lid. Once you hear it go, tss, turn it back, shut it.
Yep.
Don't let the air out. That's the fermentation, and that's the gases that make all the magic happen.
Right.
So one of my common mistakes is I opened it. Not all the
Ooh.
way, but I opened it, and even after 2 weeks, if you open it and taste it and,
Mm-hmm.
put it back on, it'll still continue to ferment. When
Mm-hmm.
you put it in, you can leave it on the shelf, but I always put it in the refrigerator, and that
Mm-hmm.
will slowly stop the fermentation.
I have a
So,
question.
yes.
And I know I had to step away. Sorry, grandbabies. So I got the brine ingredients, and I got one question that is, can you ever add anything else to brine? Like, do you ever do like garlic salt instead of salt, or, herbs or anything like that?
Absolutely. Make it
Hmm.
You
yours.
can.
Mhm.
Okay.
I
All
would
right.
put it personally, like if you're doing
Hey, Jamie.
sauerkraut, I would
Mm-hmm.
put it in the sauerkraut
Hmm.
Okay.
and mix it with that
Uh-huh.
instead of the brine, but you could put
Uh-huh.
it in the brine. Now, I'm
Okay.
infamous for not following directions, and
Okay.
so I have
Me too.
these, poinsettia peppers and
Uh-huh.
they're real little, but they're hot, they're
Uh-huh.
spicy,
Yeah.
and, like, when I do dilly beans, I'll put 2 or 3 in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it just brings out this beautiful flavor in it, and it's so
Mm-hmm.
delicious. Oh my god, they're so
Mm-hmm.
good. So you
Nice.
let's talk about what you can ferment.
Okay.
So,
Um,
obviously, use
real quick though, I got one more question.
okay.
Sorry, Jay. I told you I had questions
It's
I was gonna
okay, I knew
think.
you did.
So, when you make your brine, right? Is
Mhm.
there any kind of ratio that you need to be considerate of when you're doing, now, not talking about sauerkraut, because I'm picturing a big old bowl of fluffy cabbage that,
Uh-huh.
flattens down after a while, like you put it in. You got to make sure the liquid's above it, but when you got it in the jar to ferment, is there any sort of ratio that you should expect to see for vegetables to the brine? Or
Well,
does it
my
matter, or does it not matter just as long as you've got the brine sitting above it?
yeah, that's it. The main thing is leave an inch headspace.
Okay.
And, if you don't know what an inch is, you can go to your knuckle, your first knuckle, that's an
Mm-hmm.
inch, or to the bottom of the lip
Yep.
of the jar, that's an inch.
Yep.
Generally,
Okay.
rule of thumb.
Yeah.
So, everything depends on your brine. If it's not too salty and salty enough, it won't ferment. If
Mm-hmm.
it's too salty, it's gonna just give you
Oh.
over sodium overload, and
Hey,
it's hard
Leanne.
to take salt out. Hi, Leah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Hey,
hard to
thanks,
take
Camp.
salt out.
Thanks, Gil.
I mean, I've done it where my cabbage was sauerkraut was too salty, and I've drained it and put some more water in it, and it helped a little. But man, once it's in there,
Yeah.
it's bad, and I'm terrible
So if
about it.
there's not enough salt, though, then in that situation, it will not ferment.
It will
It'll
not.
mold or
No.
something.
Exactly. It just won't do anything, and it will mold eventually. Yeah.
Did you see
The
this
other
question
thing,
about torchy?
what's that?
Have you
Did you
ever
see
made
this?
torshi?
Never heard of
Suburban
it.
Hillbilly wants to
Isn't it
know.
Persian
No, I never heard of it.
I haven't either.
or Middle Eastern?
If it's anything like kimchi, I
CD.
love kimchi. That's
Oh,
the
It's
main
like mixed
thing.
pickled vegetables, mixed or fermented
I love
vegetables.
pickled everything. So
and that's sort of what fermenting is. It's like
Mhm.
it's a brine. It's like pickling.
Mhm.
But I never heard of that. That's very interesting. It
It's
is
Persian.
Persian.
Mhm.
Okay. The
We're all
other
gonna have to look
thing
that up.
is, y'all, don't ever, ever, never, ever use city water. Ever.
Mhm.
It has to be distilled or well.
Uh-huh.
Because the chlorine will ruin
Mm.
everything.
Mhm.
And the fluoride and all that, it'll
Mhm.
devastate your whole batch. So,
Mhm.
um,
So does it have to be
you
distilled or
can
can
add
you use
sugar.
regular bottled?
You can use spring water, distilled, or well.
Yep. I use
Yeah.
Hey,
well for mine.
and earlier, you mentioned a lukewarm jar. Do you mean that the water should be lukewarm, or do you
Hmm.
warm up the jar?
No, the water,
Okay.
just to dissolve the salt.
Oh, of course. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And
Gotcha.
like when I was doing my carrots and onions, there's a little, because I
Mhm.
use Redmond, and
Mhm.
a lot of times it doesn't always completely dissolve,
Uh-huh.
and that's okay. Just you can add a little more water to that and then dump it in, or just
Mhm.
stir it up and dump it
Yeah.
in.
My
So,
wild home, that's a big thing about water with a lot of things. And I know Suburban Hillbilly has talked about how you could take, chlorinated water, put it on the counter and the chlorine dissipates and stuff like that. But that water is a huge thing when it comes to a lot of things for soap
hmm
making and all that.
Mhm.
hmm
Mhm.
So Jan, talk about why it might mold.
uh, room temperature. It could be not enough salt. It it's sometime okay. So I have notes. Hold on.
That's okay.
Sometimes it's
I'm
called
making notes.
chyme, and chyme yeast is okay. It's sort of like a wormy looking thing, but if you get actual mold in it, it could be. Oh, and let me go back to the chyme. You can take a paper towel and wipe that off. You could eat it with it in there, but people are, oh, but I
Mhm.
would wipe it out. And mold isn't the same as that, though. Mold is, um, generally it's because it's not enough sodium in there, you know,
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, or it could be there's too much, because the brine actually causes the reaction to. Okay, let's go back. The calm is okay because it drops the pH. It's a reaction when the pH drops and the lactic acids, um, what's his name? Oh, forms. And so I don't have any notes on the actual mold, but that has been my experience. Not enough good brine, um, and maybe it could be too hot where it is. Now I always cover mine with the towel.
Mhm.
And after I seal it,
Mhm.
because it'll catch some of the juice that comes out,
Mhm.
even with the nipple, the burp
Mhm.
nipple.
Mhm.
But it's a good thing just to, look at it every day. And then when you do your sauerkraut, you want to do it just like you're canning and get all the air pockets out, but don't get all OCD on it. Just, a couple boop, 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 and then cover it, do your thing. You don't have to place a weight on it.
Oh, you don't?
No, you can use the skin, the leaf of the cabbage and cover it and just tuck it around. And like I said earlier, you can take a cheesecloth and rubber band it on there and then cover it with a towel. Put it, definitely, if you're doing that, put it on, or you can take a lid over that cheesecloth. But you definitely want to put it on a tray, because once that fermentation happens, all those gases come out.
And you definitely want all this, but you said earlier you want all the stuff underneath the brine.
You must have all the product under the
Yeah.
brine. Yeah. And you don't want it floating above whatever you've used. Now, when I fermented onions this year, I think they were red onions. Yeah. And garlic. And I have the weights, but I you can take the skin of that onion and put it on top of that jar, on top of the onions, to hold it down. And so you definitely don't need a weight, or you don't need all that. Back in the day, they had these little pots and they put all their cabbage or whatever they were fermenting. They buried it in the ground and uncovered it, and it's called a fermenting pot, I think. I don't know. That's me. So even for making coffee. Yes, so true.
Absolutely.
Crock, that's what it is. Gwen always has. She's so smart. Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
One of the ladies at the class had a half gallon and a 5 gallon and a gallon jar. And she took, when she makes kraut, she took the skins and then she put a plate on top, in her big one, of course. And she put a plate on top and a rock on top of that. And then, that's how she held it down. You can use the rock to hold it in place after you put the leaf on or whatever, the skin from the onion. You can use a rock to hold it down.
Okay. So we don't need to go out and buy a fancy kit or anything.
No, I
I
did.
can just use a rock.
Yeah. And the
Boil the rock.
the weights now are pretty cool because they have a little handle. So that was the hardest thing, getting that dang weight out.
Oh gosh, that's right. You go put a rock in there.
That's why I got the springs.
Yeah, exactly. I had a knife and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to get any glass in my fermenting.
Hey, Devin.
I throw a rock through the dishwasher.
I see Jan washing rocks. No, I thought about it and I was like, man, I just couldn't get it clean. I would say if you're going to use one, use a river rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to get the supplies to do it because I really want to start doing this. After I did that research for that why sourdough video, I mean, the whole deal is all your fermented foods do the same thing.
Yeah.
So, hey, Chris.
So, I think it's a pickle pipe. So there's a certain brand, I don't know the name and I'm not out to bash anyone, but there is a brand that fits on top of the mason jars under the lid, under the ring. Somebody posted on Instagram. So they're the formed pickle pipes in the colors. Somebody posted on Instagram that they're always having trouble with them. They work great 1 or 2 times and then they jam up and don't work well. And it's not a matter of just cleaning the hole. I was wondering if you had any of that issue.
I haven't, but I go and I squeeze it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just make sure it's clear because it can jam up. I mean, it's like a
Mhm.
nipple, you know.
Mhm.
Uh, they can mason tops. Yeah, that's what they're called.
Yeah, and I mean, this person said they cleared them and all, but they're still not working right. So I was just curious because you do a lot of fermenting.
No, I
Mhm.
haven't really had an issue with it. They may just maybe theirs is old, or maybe they just need to take a razor blade and,
Yep.
you know, serrate that little opening some more.
Yeah.
It,
Hmm.
it just could be a design flaw in what they received. I've never had that problem, but like I
Cool.
said, I do pinch it every now and then.
Mhm. So the tools that you need, you could just use a rock, and then I know you've got the little the weights with the little handles on the top, which is nice. And then you've got the lids that are the nipple lids, and I think that's what you guys were talking about. They said that it wouldn't work. Is that right? Is that what they were talking
Hmm.
about? So
Yeah.
what do you need that for? And if you don't have that, what would you use instead?
Well, the nipple releases the gases.
Mhm.
So you don't need that. You could just put your lid on. And like I
And then
said,
open it every day to make sure it doesn't like get
not
so
every
full of
day.
gas. Not
You
every
don't
day?
have to do it every day. Well, you'll see it almost immediately start to bubble and
Uh-huh.
start to ferment,
Uh-huh.
or within an hour or so. But you want to
Okay.
leave that alone. And I usually wait a couple days and then I
Mhm.
turn it just till I hear
Hey,
the
Ginger.
sound, and then I close it back up.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, Anna's awesome. I love Anna.
Mhm.
She's
Mhm.
very knowledgeable.
Mhm.
So, um,
Um, so do you have to feed it? I
no.
guess I'm thinking of a sourdough or like a ginger bug that you
You
have
know,
to feed.
you already fed it when you put the brine in.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
its food.
Now, the salt that you put in the brine, you said 1 tablespoon to 4 cups water. Do you ever put in a little more if it's a different kind of vegetable? Because like, how potatoes. I mean, I'm not gonna ferment potatoes. Okay, just saying
Right.
that potatoes. I don't know what the heck they do with salt, but if you ever got anything salty, stick it in mashed potatoes. Without it. There you go. Because I don't know where the salt goes. They just seem to take. So they take so much salt, it seems. So I guess my question is, are there any vegetables that you could go to ferment that maybe you're going to need a little more salt or a little less salt? Have you ran into that?
Yes. Every recipe's different.
Okay.
Um, some are the same. You can use the same, but
Mm-hmm.
okay. So red onions.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna slice those and put them in, and add
Uh-huh.
if you want to put peppers in. Hey, Ginger. Hi, Heather. Um, and like
Through
for
the rest
that
of the month, Ginger,
recipe,
you're good.
oh, I want to tell you,
Mm.
unrefined salt. Do not use iodized salt.
Mm-mm.
Really?
It'll screw your
It
recipe up
Yeah.
so
will?
bad.
Yeah. I think I use
Unrefined. So
pickling or
you
canning
can
salt.
Oh,
use
okay. I can use a
Himalayan
pickling salt. Okay.
pickling salt. I use Redmond's real
And,
salt, or
and you
you
said
can use,
Himalayan pink salt?
yes, and
Okay.
sea salt.
I'm
So
glad you
those
said
are the
that.
things I fermented with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my I gave those jars away,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how they were. I don't have any feedback from them. I wish I did. I wish I'd given
Mm-hmm.
them my number. They know my channel, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe they'll comment. I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
so if you're doing onions, you can use canning salt, kosher, sea salt. Sea salt, canning salt's
Mm-hmm.
probably better.
Mm-hmm.
You dissolve 4 teaspoons of salt in a pint jar of warm water.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're using pints, it's 2 teaspoons for your brine. And if you're using quarts, it's 4 teaspoons. So it's
Okay.
different. And what
Okay.
you're going to do is just fill it up, pack it down. Um, uh, you really want to slice your vegetables and not chunk them
Mhm.
because it doesn't ferment as well.
I was going to ask about that.
My
Mhm.
carrots were chunked because that's what the recipe said. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I always slice it, and I
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
did with that with the carrot recipe as well.
Mhm.
And I had those in the refrigerator, and you had asked me, Tammy, do they hold their consistency?
Yeah.
Do they get
Mhm.
mushy? They were
Yeah.
the crispest, most
Really?
wonderful carrots, and they
And
had been in the refrigerator for a
mhm.
good month and a half, 2 months.
Did they taste like pickles? Like the pick is that how it is that how
A
the because
little.
kimchi's kind of pickly, you know?
Oh,
And that's like my limited experience with anything fermented. I've never like been a sauerkraut person. So I don't know that I would start with sauerkraut, but I was curious, is it so it's kind of pickly?
it's sorta like that.
Mhm.
Sorta kinda. It's,
Mhm.
it's more of a saltier brine, but,
Mhm.
I wouldn't I wouldn't necessarily say a kosher brine. You could
Mhm.
make, and you what? Ferment peppers in
Yeah.
Louisiana?
Make
Oh,
Louisiana hot sauce.
Heather,
That
I just
sounds
want to
good.
answer what I know, but then I'll let Jan answer. But I know for me, I use like ball recipes
Mhm.
because they usually work well for me, except for the carrots. I admit they were not a ball recipe. I wish they were.
Mhm.
is there a what?
Easy to understand book.
Oh, well, I would refer you to Stacy at Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. She has a book on everything fermenting, and, I when I went to, Oklahoma meetup, I wish I would have bought that book. I bought a
Mhm.
recipes book, but I wish I would have
Mhm.
got that one.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm gonna order it. There are tons of fermentation books out there, and you can go to a half price book or
Mhm.
anywhere, and you will find them, because pretty much once you get it, and,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
the cool thing I love about fermenting is, A, it's just packed full of probiotics, and our
Mhm.
liver needs our body needs
Mhm.
probiotics, and what a
Mhm.
great way to get them.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
we're not having to take pills or
Mhm.
drink this,
Yeah.
do
I
that.
have found that if I feel like I've got any kind of like acid reflux, I can go take a bite of kimchi and it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly.
That's how I would treat that. I just
I
go and get a
can't
bite of it.
stand kimchi. I thought I
I
was
love that stuff.
it took my
I
breath
love
away.
all things
Kevin,
pickled though.
he ate it in Korea all the time when he was in the military, and he's, "Oh, I love this," and I was like, "Don't you ever open that jar." I can't cook liver in our house, and I told him, "You may not ever open a jar of kimchi in our house again, because oh my god, oh,
Yeah, it's
I
not my
love
thing
that stuff.
either.
I couldn't stand it."
I
I'm
have
so
one bag that's not open yet. That's how much I love it. So I've got like the bag that's open, and there's another bag in there for when I run out.
Yep, and, like, you can
But
do
it would be
pickles.
nice if I could make it because it's expensive.
Yep, yep,
Hmm.
and I just wanna encourage everyone, get everything in a book because, they're talking about internet blackouts and who knows how
Hmm.
long that'll last. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to go on your phone and Google it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Hmm.
go and get your recipes in a book form.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the fermenting books are so inexpensive, and you could get a used one for like 3, 5
Hmm.
bucks.
Hmm.
So do that,
Yeah.
and
Lisa, you said a ball book too. If you have an Amazon link for that, that you wouldn't mind dropping in the
Yep.
chat.
I just put
There we go.
the ball recipes for fermenting where you can
Hmm.
get them for free and print them out
Uh-huh.
yeah,
because they're approved, they advocate for food safety like Leanne
Yeah.
was saying and all that.
Hmm.
yeah.
Because that's important. But I will look it up while you guys are chatting.
Can you get botulism from like food that's supposed to be fermented and it's not fermented?
No, not that I know of. But I don't know of food you can't ferment. You know,
Let's talk about recipes. So you mentioned you've done the red onions, and you've done carrots. Is there anything so what about
cabbage.
like squash or zucchini? Like, is there anything because it's going to be, first off, it's got to taste good. So
Yeah,
any foods that you could pickle, maybe? Is that like the train of thought on what you can ferment?
cucumbers. Um,
Hmm.
you could do squash, although I've never tried it.
Uh-huh.
Um, you could you
Okra.
could do
I've
it.
had pickled okra before. It's
Okra. Oh,
amazing.
oh my God, fermented okra is so good.
Is
It's so
it?
good.
I would
Yeah.
love to try that.
I'm going to get one of my
Peppers.
books.
My mouth is like watering.
I know. You can do peppers. You can ferment like honey and garlic. That's
Mhm,
fermentation. And that
mhm,
is so healthy for you. Y'all should always have at least a pint of honey and garlic.
mhm.
And now when I did mine, full disclosure,
Uh-huh.
it molded because I screwed up. And so but
Because
I
that's
did
different, right? When you ferment garlic in honey, like there's no salt in there, right?
no salt. No, but it
The honey
ferment.
just does it.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
Um you I mean, honestly, y'all, I don't know, except maybe potatoes.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might like pickled potatoes. I don't know. I never tried it.
It's a big world. You never
I don't think so. Uh, yeah, I love
Everybody's
pickled
saying
okra.
yes to that pickled okra.
And here's the thing, like when you can something,
Hmm.
it loses value,
Uh-huh.
nutritional value.
Yeah.
When you ferment, it adds
Hmm.
all this goodness. And, same with dehydrating or freeze drying.
Hmm.
Freeze drying by far is the shiznit, but
Hmm.
dehydrating takes some of the value out of it.
Hmm.
And so, there's pros and cons to doing each.
Hmm.
Um, Ran it through your buck. Hey,
Nice.
tree stand. Oh, oh gosh, can't wait I get to go hunting this year. I'm so
It's
excited.
the 11th, right? Saturday's opening day.
I don't know. I was gonna have to look it up. I think you're right though.
I
Yeah.
think that it's opening day, so we've already
Yeah.
like told the kids don't ride quads or anything in the woods. We're wanting to get a
No.
deer, and I'm gonna go with my husband. I'm so excited. I hope we get one.
Oh yeah.
It'd be
Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
and I think it is important to point out because I was just doing a search. There is mixed reviews on botulism in fermented foods, but it is
Uh-huh.
possible.
Okay.
Some of the more reputable sites do say that there is botulism, and I mean,
Oh,
like for example, I mean, I had the carrots,
Hmm.
and like Jan was asking me before the show, like what color was the mold? It
Hmm.
was not a good color.
yeah.
Hmm.
And it wasn't that calm that she was talking about, right? It wasn't
Hmm.
from the fermenting process. It was bad.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
and that's the scary part about botulism, right? Because if you don't have clean, sterile stuff,
Uh-huh.
when you go to use it, like Jan was talking about, if you don't do all that stuff, you
Hmm.
could inadvertently, um, like any food preservation, introduce any kind of toxic thing, for a lack of a better term,
True.
Uh-huh.
germs. So you just have to be careful.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Hey,
just never thought about it. So thank you. You taught me something.
Yeah,
I'll
no
Yeah.
do
problem.
Well, if
when
I
you
see
guys.
mold, it's gone. It's bye
Hmm.
bye down the trash
Hmm.
or in the compost.
Yeah.
When yeah, I just learned like a lot of the details about botulism, not I want to say within the last month or so. Totally freaked me out. Like I have canned jams and jellies, and pickled stuff. And apparently, I don't know, I've gotten lucky, I guess. I haven't killed myself or anyone else, but it really did freak me out. And so I have a question, and this might be a stupid question, but I'm not afraid to ask stupid questions. So, when you sterilize your jars, like I've always like boiled water and had my jars go in there after I wash them, and then had my jars go in there. I've never timed how long that they've been submerged in the boiled water to qualify them as sterilized. Like, I don't know. It makes me, am I even doing that right? I guess it's my worry. Do you know, is there a certain time frame that you have to have a jar submerged in like that really hot boiling? I mean, obviously it's not boiling when I stick it in. I boil it and I shut it off and then, put my jars in there. But I usually, and I've heated them up in the oven before. So
That's what
sometimes
I
I'll put them
do.
in there and I turn the heat up and they're already in there. So they're gradually getting warm. I don't just
Mm-hmm.
go put them in boiling water. Or I've also seen where you can put them on a cookie sheet, stick them in the oven, and then they warm up that way too. I don't know if there's a best or a worst way, but curious what you guys' thoughts are on that. Again, sorry if it seems like a silly question.
I
I just
put
want to make sure I'm
I
doing it right.
usually it depends what I'm doing. If I'm water bath canning, I just
Kaylin.
put them in the water bath
Mm-hmm. Yep.
pot, and
Mm-hmm.
if I'm um, pressure canning, I put them in. I turn our oven is all jacked up, so I
Uh-huh.
turn it on 350 and then shut it off,
Mm-hmm.
and just put my jars in there while everything's prepping. And I
Uh-huh.
figure if a half hour ain't sterile, it ain't never gonna be sterile, or 15 minutes.
Yeah,
So
I would think like 10 minutes, but
I would
wait, yeah, look at Gwen just said, yep, if you're processing
Right.
10 minutes or more, oh, you don't have to
Which
sterilize.
I'm
Yeah.
always adding 10 minutes for my altitude,
Oh gosh, right?
oh yeah.
and pressure canning my 15 pounds are long.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's different than time. I get it, but we're
Yeah.
always
Thanks for coming,
processing
Tina.
forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, which we were
Ah,
talking in the beginning, is cough syrup. That
Huh.
so do you know you can take a yellow, you can use a white onion, a red onion is what
Mm-hmm.
I know about, and you take a half cup of water
Mm-hmm.
and a half cup of honey, and then you can use a slice and a clove of garlic chopped. You
Mm-hmm.
can use a sliced onion or chop it up and put that on the onion,
Mm-hmm.
and it will pull out the juice of the onion. And it's an old tradition for coughs. You know how you get that cough you just can't
Uh-huh.
stop coughing with?
Yeah.
You take a teaspoon of that or a tablespoon, and it like almost instantly stops the cough. My
Hmm.
my nephew's wife is Colombian, and
Mm-hmm.
he swears by it. He's like, Aunt Jan, you got to try this. It works
Huh.
so good.
Thank you,
And
Luann.
that's another form of fermenting.
Mm-hmm.
So how much did that book go for, Lisa?
let me look here. 16.99. It's on sale.
Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good price.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah, I
price.
don't put the jars in the oven either. I usually let
Mm-hmm.
them sit. I see what Leanne was saying. Yeah, I usually sit them in hot water,
They
keep them
can't handle
soaking in
dry
hot
heat.
water.
Oh, see,
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a problem putting them in the oven ever.
Mm-hmm.
But usually 9 times out of 10, they go in the uh, water bath canner, and I
Yep.
just
Mm-hmm.
bring that to a low
Mm-hmm.
boil, and well, not even a boil.
Yeah,
It's
like a
I
simmer.
put the lid on. Yeah, yeah, that's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, um, there's just so many amazing possibilities
Mm-hmm.
to fermenting. And, okay, you're
There
talking
are.
about maybe 6 teaspoons or, you know,
Yeah.
8 teaspoons of salt
Mm-hmm.
and water.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Try it. What do you got to
Mm-hmm.
lose? Try
Right?
it. If it
Mhm.
if it doesn't work or it doesn't taste right,
Mhm.
then you know better,
Yeah, it's funny. You said, "What do you got to lose?" And I'm laughing because I remember telling Leanne and Daz, I lost my whole carrot harvest.
Oh, no.
But it,
Aw.
but seriously, it isn't the end of the world because I'm definitely a proponent of try it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things
Well,
like that.
true, and people get wrapped up, in, organic, non-organic. Man, skin those carrots. Who cares? If you can't get a hold or afford organic food, which I always try to
Mhm.
use organic things,
Mhm.
but if you don't have it, use what you have and
Mhm.
just make sure it's washed good and
Mhm.
it's clean.
Yep.
And, like when I screwed up my honey and garlic, I was devastated. I had so much I went to get some and it was mold. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh man, you know. Oh, so I haven't done another one yet, but I've got a bunch of honey I bought
Hi,
from a
Lori.
store. And I'm
Mhm.
gonna I've got a bunch of garlic I grew, so the
Mhm.
only thing is it's frozen, and so I'm gonna have to buy some. I don't want to use
Mhm.
frozen garlic because it gets
Yeah.
really funky.
When you do the garlic, are you gonna do it in the saltwater brine or in the honey?
Honey. But
Mm.
I do add garlic. My carrots
Mhm.
had garlic. What I did was layer it, and then I
Uh-huh.
had some dill florets,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
I broke those apart and put them
Uh-huh.
in with the carrots.
Mhm.
Oh, that made it taste more like a pickle because I had the dill
Mhm.
in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
that did help, and you could put dill seed in there. You can
Mhm.
put canning, what do you call that?
Oops. Heather said I
All the
put my honey
Like the
garlic in
pickle
the
mix.
fridge. Oops.
yeah. Um,
So I have a question. Since we're a couple of things are kind of guiding my brain over there. How long does it take for something to be fermented to where it's like ready to eat? And then,
well,
mhm.
go ahead.
And then how long is it shelf stable or do you have to keep it in the fridge?
I wouldn't you can keep it on the shelf. I know people
Uh-huh.
that do,
Mm-hmm.
but you should have a cooler like in the winter. I would not
Okay.
put it in the refrigerator because
Uh-huh.
like I said, it slows down the process.
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer both questions? Oh,
Um,
how
and
long?
yeah, how long is it good for?
It, we've had our sauerkraut for up to a year, and
Mhm.
it was
Is it
fantastic.
fridge or is it
In
canned?
the in the
Okay.
refrigerator, I did not can
Okay.
it. I just fermented
Okay.
it and
That's
put it in the fridge.
awesome.
Yeah. Um, and that's because I made a quart and it was way in the back,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't know it was in there, and I opened
Mhm.
it up and tasted it,
Mhm.
and man, golly, it was so good. It was so good. It didn't last long
Awesome.
after that. It
And
was
did
not
your
quite a year, but
It's like the sourdough starter, like I know that people revive it after a very, very long time, and that's great for
Mhm.
them. For
Mhm.
me, if it's looking funky, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm going to start over.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, it might my hair
Oh,
is
here
not
Leanne
heavy,
says
so
when
it
it's
doesn't
done
bother.
fermenting, keep it in the refrigerator for at least a year.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
longer it sits, the better. Ooh,
yes. It's so true.
love
It's
Yeah.
that.
so true. Like those
Mhm.
carrots, they were in there so long, the carrots, onion, dill, and garlic, and I
Nice.
I just brought them because I thought, well, I tasted them. I wanted to make sure before,
Mhm.
A
uh,
little bite.
and I put them in a bowl, and there were none left
Mhm.
and there was a lot of carrots and onions. Everyone's like, "Oh my
Mhm.
god, I can't believe how good these are." And then they
Yeah.
were taking
Mhm.
the onions from it and putting it on their
Mhm.
sandwiches, and I'm like, "That's
Mhm.
what it's all about, man." You
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
thinking of
or the
like,
hamper.
you know how if you ever had Mexican food and they have like the the little bar area where you can go and you can get your pickled onions
Yes.
and your pickled jalapenos and oh my goodness. Yeah,
That's
I'd love
another thing. Jalapenos. Why didn't I even think
Mhm.
about that? You can
Yeah.
ferment those and
Mhm.
just, slice
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
They're
Yes,
so
I've
good.
I've got a bunch in the fridge. They're tiny, mind you, but
Excuse
I
me.
could totally put them in there with some onions and oh my goodness, and some carrots. Like you ever buy I always get pickled jalapenos. That's like a thing
Yeah.
with the carrots in there and the onions and
Yeah.
best
And
ever.
That's
you could
awesome.
chop up your carrots or, if you have a machine that'll make them
Mhm.
thinner and long, you
Uh-huh.
could do that.
Mhm.
Um, just basically chunks aren't very good,
Mhm.
you don't
Good
want
to
big
know. And you
chunks.
don't have to shake it or anything.
Mm-mm.
You just let it set
Hmm.
in the refrigerator.
No,
Okay.
No, on the
no,
counter or
on
dark
Oh,
the
on the
kitchen.
counter.
counter. Okay,
Don't put
okay.
it in the refrigerator because it won't ferment.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
after
It
it
needs the heat.
ferments. So,
Okay.
how long does it take? It
Mhm.
each each vegetable is different.
Yep.
So, I'm
Mm.
sorry, I got an
Mhm.
itch on my nose. Who's talking about me?
Oh, they're talking about how beautiful your hair is
No.
and how long it
Thank
is.
you.
That's so
But
funny. And look at there, that wives' tale
I know,
came
right?
true, right? Who's talking about me? Well, they are talking about how beautiful your hair is.
So, like carrots, they took longer than the sauerkraut. I think it was, well, I checked them in 2 weeks. I
Mhm.
put a date on there that when I needed to check them,
Uh-huh.
and they weren't even ready. And
Mhm.
so,
Okay.
and then I covered them back up. Now,
Mhm.
you asked me about shaking, when I covered them back up, I
Uh-huh.
did give it a little shake.
Uh-huh.
Just, I don't know if it did anything, but that's what I
Uh-huh.
did.
Yeah, I almost
Normally I
you'd
don't.
feel compelled to, thinking that
Yeah.
maybe that brine needs to move around in there or something.
Yeah. I twirled the jar. That's what I
Mhm.
did. But
Yeah.
those took 6 weeks.
Huh.
My sauerkraut usually takes like four weeks,
Mhm.
and then I know it's good to go. So,
Right.
Mhm.
but
Awesome.
Leanne's right. The longer it sits, the better it is.
And it also depends, like
21
sourdough, it
days.
depends on what the weather is and all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. Because I know when I did my sauerkraut, it was summer, right? I had it
Mhm.
on the counter. I had 3 quarts of it and I covered it and it did great. I did the
Mhm.
carrots, it was more fall,
Mhm.
and I put it in the
Hmm.
pantry on a tray and let it sit. So,
Yeah, the dark. That's why I cover it, because the darkness
mhm.
helps it ferment better.
Oh,
And
okay.
Yeah.
the temperature of your house, like in my
Uh-huh.
canning room,
Uh-huh.
it's colder back there. Now,
Mhm.
if I put it over here by the firewood stove,
Uh-huh.
it would ferment super fast. Like Gwen was saying, 21 days. It would be ready to go because
Mhm.
if we have a fire going, it's going to be
Mhm.
warmer there. Or if
Hmm.
I put it in here somewhere in the living room,
Uh-huh.
it would be warmer.
Mhm.
Read our
Yep.
comments. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm chit chatting. Which comments? Solid food and clean, sanitize area, wash mattress, clean supplies. Can't skip on safety. Yep. Okay.
Mhm.
Just a heads up, we have about a
Oh,
minute or
shoot.
so left. So if there's any questions, type them in the chat for me now, please.
Yep.
Thanks.
Oh, I can't see the
Thank you,
comments
Lisa.
I'm supposed to read. I'm
I don't see
sorry.
them either. I just see
Um,
folks talking about hair, depends on the temperature, how Granny used to make her sauerkraut.
Thank you for the hair compliments.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. In the wash house. Like I said, people used to take the Crocs and bury it under the ground and, you know,
Mhm.
Wow.
back in the day.
Mhm.
Um, okay, Annette, love you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
ladies.
Annette.
I'm sorry. I don't know, Lynn. Was it the hair?
Read our
She said
comments.
she got a headache if her hair was.
Oh,
I
yeah.
get a headache
Long.
if I do a ponytail
Yeah.
Mhm.
in the back. I can't wear
Mhm.
ponytails because,
Huh.
Yes, you
I
peel
get a
your
headache.
carrots
It
if
hurts.
they're not right. You peel them usually, unless they're
Oh yeah,
organic.
you definitely want to peel
Mhm.
your carrots. Yeah,
Thanks, Suburban Hillbilly. Well,
yeah.
Jan, thank you so much for coming on with us today. I cannot believe that the time has flown by. So
I
I
know
know.
it. Thank you, Jan.
Oh,
and
it was great. I
and I
loved it.
have your number. So when I start to do fermenting, I think I asked you about every question that I had. But if there's any lingering one or something that happens um, during the during the process, I'm gonna be reaching out to you. And Leanne just said, I've heard not to make kraut in months that end in burr.
Huh, no kidding.
Huh,
Oh, so it
interesting.
needs to be a
Never heard
warmer
that.
month.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Nice.
So that doesn't mean that you can't try it in the winter, though, right? I mean,
You just want to
to
try
to
January,
ferment
February.
anything else. Should I put this off until like next year?
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay, good
I
to
don't
know.
know. Sort of
Huh.
like your nose is itching. Well, and
Mhm.
harvesting certain like rabbits you don't want to do with
Oh yeah, I've
birds.
heard
I
of.
think.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah,
rabbits. You got to do them in the winter.
this is nothing, Lynn.
I just had
I don't
mine
get a
cut because
headache.
mine does that. It grows so darn fast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
All
Heather,
right.
that'd be a great idea. Just do a live and we're all fermenting together.
Oh, that would
Yep.
be fun.
Yeah, let's
Mm-hmm.
do it. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
it. I got to get through a couple collaborations first, though.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, true.
same
And you
here.
forgot September, Gwen.
yeah.
All righty, y'all. Well,
Okay. Thanks
I'm
for
the
having me.
timekeeper. I got to keep on it.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Lisa. And thank you, Jan, for coming.
Thank you for
If
having me.
anybody, and I'm looking forward to more fermenting videos. I hope you keep those coming, Jan, because I'm going to try
Okay.
Thanks,
some of your
Jan.
recipes. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. And thanks
Bye.
again, Jan. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye now.